Welcome to today's new webinar, Support Coordination 101. Your presenter is Robyn Lang and my name is Catherine Keenan and I'll be your facilitator today. We always start all our webinars with an acknowledgement. We acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians, past and present, on whose land we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and the relationship of Aboriginal people to country and respect the cultural authority of the elders in each community. Just a little bit of introduction about our presenter today. Robyn Lang is an NDIS advisor. She started her work venture with MS as a peer support coordinator in 2011. In 2014, Robyn took on the role of the NDIS advisor, where she works to help people to understand the significance of the NDIS, its intricacies, the eligibility criteria, and the opportunities the scheme offers to help people lead a more ordinary life. The role of local area coordination and how to request review decisions that potential participants may require. Robyn has also developed NDIS resources, including information sheets, frequently asked questions, webinars, workshops for clients, NDI planners and local area coordinators, all of which are a culmination of her ongoing learnings of the ever-expanding NDIS space. Robyn's very committed to the concept of the NDIS and helping people get the best possible outcomes from it. And now I'm just going to hand over to Robyn to start the presentation.
Good morning to everyone and thank you for attending our webinar this morning. I think you might have heard Catherine say at the beginning this is a new webinar. So we'd really love your feedback at the end of it to help us to just tweak it if it needs a bit more work. But hopefully you'll all get a lot out of it. So let's get started on Support Coordination 101. I just need to get to mine. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so what is support coordination? It's a capacity building support to implement all supports in a participant's plan, including your informal, your mainstream, and your community and funded supports. And the funds for support coordination sit under the capacity building category in your plan. And I'd just like to unpack that statement a bit more. So in terms of capacity building, the NDIS is all about helping people to build their capacity so that they are more able to lead an ordinary life. So we at MS as support coordinators and any other support coordination organisation should be working with you as a participant to assist you to build your understanding of the scheme, the supports that you've been funded for, you know, how your plan works and how to self-advocate. In terms of informal supports, that might be things like family, friends and neighbours who provide you with emotional and practical supports throughout your life. These cannot and will not be funded by the NDIS, obviously. Mainstream supports refers to supports that everyone has access to under different sectors like health, education, community, transport and housing. Community supports, that refers to things, again, that everyone has access to within their community, such things as library, community hubs, the MS Society would be another community support, social groups and programs. And then finally, there are your funded supports. And these are the supports that the NDIS funds, including but not, there are other things as well, but including things like therapies, carers, assistive technology, home modifications, etc. So what your support coordinator is there to do is to help you to put all those little bits together, those little pieces of the puzzle to help you with all your supports and services, not just the funded ones in your plan. So I just wanted to let you know how the NDIS makes a decision about whether someone may or may not get support coordination funds. And again, the NDIS sometimes is a little inconsistent, but this is what we understand are the parameters around why people might get support coordination. So for a participant who has complex or high intensity needs, somebody living with a cognitive impairment, someone living with limited informal support, so maybe nobody else around them on a daily basis to help them get their plan activated, somebody living in a location where there are limited services, or someone who has English as a second language, someone who has limited access to technology like a smartphone, tablet, or computer, and somebody who is facing housing difficulties. We have been advocating at MS that most people living with MS should be getting support coordination at least in their first year. And that's because of the progressive nature of the disease and because of the high levels of fatigue that a lot of people living with MS experience, as well as sometimes some levels of cognitive decline. So I just want to expand on some of this a bit. So complex needs would be complex needs across a number of sectors. So somebody who is dealing with maybe the health sector, housing department, is struggling with their employment or is in the justice system. People who are having difficulty understanding their plan, processing the information and retaining it, and those people that would have trouble finding and coordinating their own services. So why would you choose MS? We've been providing support coordination right from the beginning, the inception of the scheme in the trial areas in Barwon and Newcastle. And because we've been doing it for that long, we have a really good insight into the role of the support coordinator and the experience, hopefully to provide a good service to people who are choosing us. We now have over 700 participants who are using our support coordination services. Obviously, MS understands the symptoms, especially those ones that are invisible and complex for people living with MS. So you don't have to explain yourself because we already get it. And I guess most of you know that we've been in this space for over 60 years supporting people living with MS. We like to work in partnership with you to make sure your plan works well for you. And we also work with other people with neurological conditions, not just MS. We always take direction from you about how you want your plan managed. And you might choose to allocate some responsibility to us while you take on the responsibility of other things. Always the choice and control is yours, but together we believe we can help you to work towards your goals and improve your life for you. I think the other thing that we have, because we've been in this space for quite a long time, is we've got insights into a wide range of providers, and that helps us to match you with those that are going to meet your needs and your values. Just having trouble moving to my next slide. Okay. So this is just a little diagram to help you understand what the support coordinator's role is, because if you've got a good understanding of their role, then there are no misunderstandings about what that support coordinator is there to do for you. So they are there to understand and help you action your plan. They're there to build your capacity to manage your plan yourself. So the NDIA has an expectation that at some stage over the life of your plan, which could go for a long, long time, that your support coordinator is going to help you to manage your plan by yourself, and those support coordination dollars in your plan will not always be there. Now, for somebody who is experiencing an increase in cognitive decline, we believe that those people will always be needing support coordination. But for a lot of people, just having support coordination in their first year, just to help them feel really comfortable with their plan and getting that first step up to talking to providers and getting them in place, that's all they need. So the support coordinators are there to link you up and liaise with all your service providers. So they're there if you're having difficulties, if there's a bit of a crisis, they're there to help you. As I said before, they just don't help you coordinate your funded supports that you're getting through the NDIS. They look at you and the supports that are around you in a holistic way. So they look at your informal supports, your funded supports, and those mainstream and community supports you can access, and help you to get them all in place so that you're in a really good position to reach the goals that you have in your plan. Really importantly, your support coordinator is there to help you prepare for your annual review. So most of you will probably have a plan that runs for 12 months. Sometimes people get 24-month plans, but just before the 12 or the 24 months is up, around 6 to 8 weeks before, it's good to have all your ducks in a row, to have reports in from your different service providers explaining what services they've provided to you, how they've benefited you, and what you need in the following year. And your support coordinator is there to help get all that in place, to help you work through your goals to see if they've changed, to look at all the different supports and services to make sure they're meeting your needs, and to discuss with the NDIA planner or the local area coordinator what your needs are going forward into the next 12 months or 24 months. I'll just stop briefly, Catherine, in case there are any questions at this stage.
Thanks, Robyn. No, there haven't been any questions posted yet, but as Robyn has suggested, we would love to have the questions posted throughout the session, and Robyn will take the opportunity to answer those.
Okay, so let's just dig down a bit more into the support coordinator's role. Again, I'm having trouble with my slides. I'm sorry. Here we go. So these are some of the common support coordinator activities that you can expect to receive, whether it's from us or another organisation. So they're there to support you, to help you to assess all the different options you have and to choose preferred providers. They're there to help you negotiate prices if you're self-managing your funds. They're also there to develop service agreements with you. Service agreements are really important because they outline clearly the role that the different service providers have, what the termination policy might be, either if you want to terminate their service or if they need to terminate the service they're giving to you, their complaints procedure, their cancellation policies, things like that. So service agreements are really important, and having your support coordinator run through service agreements that different providers have is really important. Obviously, they're there to help you effectively use your budget. We know for a lot of people who don't have support coordination that when it comes to the end of the 12 months life of their plan, that quite often they haven't been able to effectively use all their budget. And unfortunately, the NDIA quite often looks at when they come for their annual review, if you haven't used all the funds in your plan and you're unable to articulate the reasons why those funds weren't used, they will take that as evidence that you don't need those funds, and some of those funds might be taken away. So it's really important that your support coordinator is there to help you get that budget used as necessary and really effectively so that you can reach your goals. They're there to help arrange assessments to determine funding required. And for example, this would be helping to arrange for an occupational therapist to come out to put together a report and recommendations on either home modifications or equipment that you might be needing. And they're also there to liaise with your service providers. So they're there to help you, as I said before, link with mainstream and community services, strengthen your capacity to manage your plan in the future, prepare for your annual plan review, identify solutions to problems so that if you are struggling with something, they're your go-to person when you're struggling to say, look, I'm having trouble with this. How can we remedy this situation? And they should be able to provide you with solutions so that things start to run seamlessly for you. They're there to help you consider new goals, and they would do that with you in consultation with you and with other people that are important to you. So if you've got family members that you would like included in that conversation when you're developing your goals for your following year, your support coordinator should be liaising not only with you but with them. They're also there to manage everyone's expectations, both yours and the service providers. And that's around the funding that that the funding's in line with your goals and your primary disability. In terms of identifying solutions to problems, I just want to add to that it could be things like understanding your responsibilities under a service agreement. So, for instance, if you needed to cancel a service, to help you understand how much notice you need to give to the service providers. So, for instance, some service providers request that you give 24 hours notice if you want to cancel a service, otherwise they will be charging you for that service. And they would also be there to help you to change or end a service agreement if that was something that you wanted to do. So what activities are outside the role of the support coordinator? We need to be really clear about what they are meant to do and the things that they're not funded to do. So a support coordinator is not there to provide participants with transport or to undertake any of the plan administration in terms of organising payment of bills and things like that. That's the role of the plan manager. They're not there to support rostering of service providers. That would be the role of the service provider that is providing you with personal support to be doing that rostering, not your support coordinator. They are not allowed to provide advocacy for participants, and they're not there to provide disability supports or case management, and they are certainly not there to assist in the chasing up of any financials. If you are using support coordination at the moment, it's really good to hang on to these slides so that if you ever are wondering, can I use my support coordinator for that? Just come back to these slides and have a look, and hopefully they'll give you a good picture of what you can and cannot ask a support coordinator to do. So what does a good support coordinator look like? Well, firstly, they should be timely and professional, and they should manage any perceived or real conflicts of interest. They should be providing a person-centered focus on positive outcomes for you. They should have a really good grip and an understanding of the role of mainstream services. So they should understand where the NDIS funded supports start and finish and where mainstream services fit in, because the NDIS does not provide funded supports for absolutely everything. It is not a silver bullet, and mainstream services are still there and still expected to be helping people living with disability. And your support coordinator should have a really good understanding of that. They should also understand the NDIS legislation, especially around what is reasonable and necessary. And they're terms that you might have come across before within the NDIS, because that's how they make decisions on everybody's funding. Is it reasonable that we provide funding for this, and is it necessary given that person's functional impairment?
Excuse me, Robyn.
Yes.
Yes, we have a question.
Oh, good.
Oh, isn't that great? This is from Diane. She would like to know, how do I get a support coordinator in Launceston?
How do you get them and test them?
No, is it Launceston in Tasmania?
Oh, in Launceston, in
Oh,
Launceston.
sorry,
Yeah,
that's my accent.
okay, that's that Kiwi accent.
Must be.
So first, the most important thing is you have to look in your plan to see whether you have something called support coordination in there, and that sits in the capacity building category of your plan. So if you have something called support coordination in your plan, you can see it sitting there and you can see a dollar amount beside it, then you can either call, you can talk to your local area coordinator about who is in the Launceston area. And I do know, correct me, I stand to be corrected on this, but I'm almost 99.9% sure that MS does provide support coordination in the Launceston area. And if you are wanting to choose us, then the easiest thing to do is call MS Connect. But all you need to do is look on the other way of finding a support coordinator is going to the provider portal. And hopefully most of you know what that is when I use those words. And if you don't, either going to your local area coordinator or to MS Connect, and maybe they can help you to work through that. But I must emphasize that you have to have those support coordination funds in your plan to then have a support coordinator put in place. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay, so a good support coordinator should also understand the flexibility within budgets. So some areas, so for instance, within your core support category, there's a great deal of flexibility between the subcategories, and your support coordinator should know how the money can be moved around to best meet your needs. They should also know that any funds that are in the capital category, and capital category covers things like home modifications and equipment, that is not a flexible area, and money can't be transferred into other services. It has to be used for what it's stated. And there is some flexibility within your capacity building, but not as much as in your core supports. They need to understand that and have a really good finger on the pulse in terms of that, because where you can have flexibility, it's really good to be able to use it to the best, to the maximum. We believe that your support coordinator should be a registered provider, i.e. they are a registered provider with the NDIS. Your support coordinator should always provide reports on whether you're meeting your goals, the outcomes of the different services that you're receiving, and the success indicators. And that should all be going to the NDIA because it helps them make decisions on the funding in the plan for your following year. And it's all about, the NDIA is all about looking at the benefits that services and supports are providing you with. So it's important that that information is getting to them so that they can understand what you need in your following year. So that's a really important role that your support coordinator should be providing for you. So if you have a good support coordinator and they're doing all those things that I've just listed, you should be able to tick these things. You should have confidence about your plan and your supports. You should have choice and control about the services that you're receiving and the people that are providing it for you. You should have, if it's a well-funded plan, so it also depends on whether the NDIA has funded you appropriately, and if they have, then your plan should be fully implemented, i.e. you should be using your funds throughout the year and not having any leftovers, because there's no rollover in your funding. So if you're not using all your funding, there needs to be a good reason for it, and your support coordinator needs to be able to help you understand and the NDIA understand why those funds haven't been spent. A good support coordinator is there to help you to build your own capacity to understand and manage your plan going forward. So that one day, if you don't have support coordination funds in your plan, so that they're taken away in successive years, that you are well able to manage your plan yourself and make sure that you're able to use the funds appropriately and you're using the funds to reach your goals. With good support coordination, you should have strengthened informal support networks. So the support coordinator should be helping you to build those connections with the informal support networks, both family, friends, and within your community. And hopefully you're having more opportunities with the funding in your plan and with the help from that support coordinator to explore and connect with community and find alternative support options and really lead a really an ordinary, it sounds terrible, it sounds really sort of boring, but a really ordinary life that we all expect to be able to lead. And that if you have aspirational goals, that you can actually meet them. So there are some more things that you should be able to do if you've got a good support coordinator. You should be able to access, if you've got the technology, and use the NDIS participant portal. You should be able to make more educated decisions about your future goals, your plans, and the supports that you are receiving. And you should be better able to coordinate and manage the multiple supports and services, not only that you have in terms of funded supports, but again, those other supports that are out there, the mainstream supports such as working with health, working with housing, working with the employment sector, working and using services that are in your local community so that you're able to get out and about and do the things that you want to do. So we have very definite ideas about how our support coordinators should be working on and what they should be focusing on. And we believe that this is something that whether you're using MS as your support coordinator or if you're using another organisation, that these are the sorts of things that you should be, that your support coordinator should be focusing on. So they should be focusing on making sure that you've got really positive and holistic outcomes, that your capacity is being built and that you've got better understanding of your plan. And they believe that they need to work with you to build your strengths and your interests and work with the strengths you already have. They should be there to educate you about the NDIS. They should be focusing on helping you understand the portal, about implementing your plan, and importantly, working within the funds that you have available. They should be focusing on monitoring your plan to make sure that that the budgeting is happening correctly and you're not there's not a shortfall before the end of the year. And if there is going to be a shortfall in your funds, that they would help you then to put in for a review of your plan if you've got any unmet need. And they're also there to help you to resolve any points of crisis. So what are the strategies that we use? We look for people, when we look for support coordinators, that they're people who will actively listen to you, that have good people skills, that they're good at building rapport with you, because you're going to have to work very closely with them. And, you know, they're coming into your life and they're learning things about you and the people around you, and, you know, some quite intimate things about you. So you need to feel really comfortable with your support coordinator. You also hopefully will have a support coordinator that understands what life was like for you before MS, and if there were things that you used to do that you can no longer do, how they can help you to get back, or sometimes you can't get back to where you may have been before MS, but to help you get as much as you can out of your life in a way that it was before your MS. It's critically important that our support coordinators have good time management. They need to have good time management because they have a limited number of funds to use to help you to do all the things they do as a support coordinator. And if they're not good time managers, then the funds will run out and you won't get the sort of support that you need for the full 12 months of your plan. I need to put a proviso on that though. If you don't have the right funding in your plan, it doesn't matter how good that support coordinator's time management is. If you've got some if you've got some complex issues, if you've got a very complex plan and there's not enough support coordination hours in your plan, no matter how good that time management, the time management skills of that support coordinator are, it would be impossible for them to actually reach that goal without more supports, more funded supports. Hopefully we help you to understand the complicated NDIS terms and give you a simple interpretation of them. So help you to understand things like what reasonable and necessary actually means, for instance. They're also there to help you to understand what your responsibilities are, what your service provider's responsibilities are, and setting expectations so that you're not disappointed and you don't have unrealistic expectations. We also expect that our support coordination people have really good documentation. So we have a system of keeping file notes on different participants, and those file notes need to be timely, so kept written up in a timely manner, and they need to be clear so that if somebody else needs to come in and take over in an emergency, that they know exactly where you're up to and you don't have to repeat your story too many times. They also need to focus on being really clear about what's billable and what is non-billable in terms of your arrangements. Let's look at what you should expect in the initial meetings. These are really important. So the first meetings are about establishing a rapport with you. And as I said, this support coordinator is going to be part of your life. They're going to know a lot of things about you and what you need. So rapport is one of the most important things when we're engaging with you. So we're not only getting to know each other, but we will be there to help decipher the plan and begin to identify and organise services for you. We'll be setting a bit of a plan on what should be done during this phase of support coordination, and that will assist us to manage our time and ensure that we're covering everything. So what areas should be covered during the first planning meeting? So there should be, for you, an explanation of support coordination, what it is, what it isn't, setting the boundaries and the expectations. Unpacking your plan. So explaining each support item in your plan and where there are options to use the funds flexibly. Sometimes plans are really difficult to understand. So having that support coordinator there to unpack it with you is invaluable. We'll also, in these first meetings, identify support coordination hours available and whether or not this is adequate for your needs. And this is an opportunity to discuss if you need more funded hours and for us to explain the process of having a review if it's needed.
Excuse me, Robyn.
Mm.
Just had a comment from Cheryl. and she's saying, "Hi Robyn, I will have quite a bit of funding left. I need help in spending my funding fully, which worries me as I am self-managed. I'm able to organise my plan with the supports I need. I feel I need to have a support coordinator to use my plan fully. So I'm really I'm very much enjoying listening in. So very much helpful information from you."
That's great. And Cheryl, thank you too, because I know you wrote in a question prior, which was a really good thing to do, and I've got it in front of me. So Cheryl, I guess I have to clarify with you. I understand that you haven't used all the funding in your plan. And as I said before, funds don't roll over from year to year, as you'd know, because you've had several plans prior to this one. You need to know whether or not you've got support coordination dollars in this current plan. And if you don't have something called support coordination in your plan, then you can't access it using any of your other funding. So just because you've got funding left over doesn't mean you can choose to spend that funding on support coordination, because that's not how it works. And I think what I would be doing in your situation, Cheryl, is if you don't have support coordination dollars listed in your current plan, then when it comes time for your review, I would be talking to your local area coordinator about the struggle you're having to use your funds throughout the year, because clearly you've got some left over, and giving her some evidence as to why you're struggling. So is it to do with not being able to understand your plan properly? Is it because you're unable to process some of the information your local area coordinator is giving you, and then you're not able to action things? Is it because you don't understand your plan and the local area coordinator has not done a good enough job in explaining it to you, or they have explained it to you but you're still not able to understand it? So it's really a case of you being able to give them evidence as to why you need support coordination funds in your next plan. And Cheryl, it's hard for me to be clearer without understanding whether or not this current plan that you have has support coordination dollars in it.
Thanks, Robyn.
And I would be happy on that note, Cheryl, to I have your email address, so I would be happy to get back to you about that, just offline later today, if that's useful. So I'll give you a call later on today just to unpack that a bit more.
Thanks very much, Robyn.
Okay, I'll keep going about the initial meeting. So you would expect that your support coordinator also understands what your interests are, and as I said, what your life was like before MS, and very importantly, how you like to communicate. Some people find that email is better for them, or text, or landline or mobile. So, we need to identify which is the best way to communicate with you and to use your preferred method. Still continuing on with initial meetings, because these are the really important ones where everything gets unpacked, you get to know each other, and things start to get moving. The first one is usually face-to-face, and then subsequent meetings are generally over the phone or Skype, but again, it depends on the funds in your plan and your preferences. These initial meetings are there for you to ask any questions from your previous meetings, to discuss the supports you really want to utilise, which ones you feel are really important to get up and going really quickly, to map out your different supports, to discuss the different provider options and agree on which ones you want to go with, to discuss the provider information and the background on the different providers, to agree on the communication system with providers as well as with us, and to agree on how quickly you want these services introduced. So if somebody's got a very complex plan, It might be a conversation about, all right, let's get this, and this up and running pretty quickly, and then I'd like to work on these things, because if everything happens all at once, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So again, it's up to you. You're the person with the control, so the pace of how the services start to get up and running is entirely up to you, but your support coordinator needs to know how you feel about that. We'll also provide you copies of our service agreement to read over and sign. And if you're not using us and you're using a different support coordinator organisation, you should always make sure that you have a service agreement and that you're happy with it and that you've read it and understand it before you sign it. Okay, so after those initial meetings, what are the next steps? So your support coordinator will then identify different service and support options for you to consider. They'll talk to you about them and weigh up the pros and cons with you so that you can make an informed decision about who you want to use. They will be the person obtaining quotes, and they'll discuss them with you to agree on a way, going forward. So they will always liaise with you about the quotes and the costs. They will then make contact with the person that you would prefer to be working with. They'll send out something called a service request to that preferred provider, and they will check the service agreements and make sure that you're happy not only with the service agreement, but that it reflects the initial quote that service provider gave you. They'll also ensure that you sign the agreed service agreements, because that's very important that they're signed, and they will make referrals to service providers on your behalf. So you can see that they're very involved in getting those support providers up and running for you. Okay, it's all systems go. Everything starts to kick in. What should the support coordinator be doing once the services commence? They should be checking in. Is everything working well? We've now got a good understanding of you and your daily life, your goals, the supports and services you need. So let's get everything up and going. Then once everything's up and going throughout the life of the plan, your support coordinator should be monitoring your supports with you and checking in to make sure that they're meeting your needs and that you're starting to achieve those really important goals that you've got listed in your plan. As I've said before, every year your plan will be reviewed, and your support coordinator should be working with you so that you're well prepared for that review meeting. And this is vital to ensure your needs are met and you can continue to achieve your goals as your plans go forward over the years. I just wanted to give you some testimonials that we've had from people that have used us at MS for support coordination, and I'll just read them, a couple of them out. I just wanted to say thank you for all the help you've provided me. Without your contributions, it would have been very hard for me to go through the past 2 years or so. And the next one, I'm very impressed with what you've done for me. I think they are great goals to put in my plan review, and thank you for your hard work. It's much appreciated and does make a big difference to our lives. So you can see from those testimonials that not only are people happy with what we've been providing them with, but for the role of a support coordinator, it's a really, it's a wonderful task to take on and to help people to start to live a life that maybe is much improved on before the NDIS provided them with supports and services. And it gives our support coordinators, you can imagine just that wonderful feeling if they're working with someone whose supports are really helping them to achieve their goals and their life has changed completely.
Hi, Robyn.
Yes.
Hello. We've got a comment from Melissa, and she has said, I have requested support coordination in my plan. Apparently, I could ask for a review within the first 3 months of my plan. So my LAC has helped me do that. Now I'm awaiting the outcome, fingers crossed. So that's a comment that she has made in regard to her experience.
Yep, and Melissa, that's true. If you do want a review of your plan, you need to ask for that review within 3 months of receiving it, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, Melissa, that your request for support coordination is successful. If it's not successful, then you do have recourse to another way of getting a review of that decision. So if you have put in for that review and the NDIA comes back and says, look, unfortunately, we don't think that it's reasonable and necessary to provide you with support coordination, you can go to the Administrative Appeals Tribunal about that. And it's easy for me to say that, but it's quite, it can be quite not harrowing, but you need a lot of energy to be able to do that. And we understand that for a lot of people with MS, that can be difficult. If you don't get support coordination funds in your plan, and if you're struggling, sometimes the services of an advocacy agency can help you in terms of that. But we'll keep our fingers crossed, Melissa, that you actually get that funding in your plan. Can I also say that if you don't have support coordination funds in your plan and you're further than 3 months having the 3 months has elapsed in which to make that request for a review, if your circumstances have changed and say, for instance, you had somebody who was an informal support person, like either a parent or a partner or a young adult who was helping you to understand your plan and get it activated, and that person's circumstances had changed and they were either no longer living in your home, or they had gotten a full-time job, or they had become unwell and were no longer able to provide you with that support, or if indeed helping you to activate your plan was too much of a burden on them, you can put in for something called a request, a change of circumstances form, to let the agency know that your circumstances have changed and you need some funds for support coordination because that informal support is no longer there for you. And again, it's a decision that the NDIA makes based on the information and the evidence you provide them with. So the better the information and the better the evidence you provide to them, the more likely they are to give you those funds. So I just wanted to let you know that we're a registered service provider. So obviously, as you can tell from what I've been talking about, we do provide support coordination to help you activate your plan. And we provide that support across the ACT, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. We also offer community participation, short-term accommodation, that used to be known as, prior to the NDIS, as respite, that's only in Victoria, exercise physiology and personal training in New South Wales, specialist continence assessments, physiotherapy and occupational therapy, and plan management. And if you want to know more about any of those registered services that we provide, then the easiest thing to do is just to give MS Connect a call on the 1-800 number that's on your screen. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending the webinar today. I hope it's been useful. I've provided you with a lot of information and I hope that it's helped you to understand the role of support coordinators a little bit more, and you know exactly what that support coordinator should be doing for you. And as both Catherine and I said earlier, it would be really good if we could get some feedback on this webinar just to make sure that we're actually meeting your needs in terms of the information that we're providing. And because we've got just a few minutes left, I will go to any other questions that might be there, Catherine.
Hi Robyn, no there aren't any questions yet. Maybe once I finish the final housekeeping, people may want to type some questions while I'm going through that, and we can answer those right at the end.
Okay, so do you want to take back control?
If you are wanting some more information through MS Connect, as we said, 1800 042 138, and the email is msconnect@ms.org.au. We do have a number of free ebooks that are available to view for free, and if you contact MS Connect, they can give you the login details. There's a large number of books here that you may be interested in. We also have an online tool on our website called Get Your Act Together. This focuses on some common symptoms of MS. It's designed for people living in ACT because a lot of the resource information and support services is particular to ACT, but it definitely gives a tool that is useful for anyone who lives in any other state who's listening today. We also have an MS Financial Assistance Program. This program provides one-off funds for those facing financial hardship. The funds can be used to purchase equipment such as air conditioners, to promote quality of life and help with other health-related matters. Again, we thank you and we'd like you to contact us if you have any further information about today's webinar or any other information and support that MS can help you with now or into the future. Please stay online after this webinar to complete a short survey, and as we have reiterated throughout the webinar today, it is a new one, and Robyn and I would really much appreciate your feedback in terms of the content and the delivery of this webinar, so we can carry on doing things that you wish to hear and add some new things if that is what you would prefer. We thank you for your time